And the news of the day takes us to a lawsuit. Woohoo! A lawsuit. You know, I love these lawsuit stories. Low-hanging fruit. And that involves an angry logo. Never mess with a logo. All right, so if you didn't see this and you have no idea where we're going, we learned that Jerry West, the silhouette of the NBA's logo, is not keeping his mouth shut. Now, Jerry is upset, and he's letting the world know that he's not happy. He's demanding a retraction and an apology. Say you're sorry. Now, why does he want the apology? Why does he want the retraction? Well, he's upset. He claims there are baseless and malicious assaults taking place at his good name and his character by home box office, better known as HBO, the series about the old Showtime Lakers. Now, the lawyers for Jerry West, and he has hired a law firm here, have sent a letter over to HBO. And producer Adam McKay, you probably don't know who that guy is, but Adam McKay laying out the grievance. So I'll give you some of the bullet points here. Now, the lawyers allege that HBO, on their docuseries, falsely and crudely portrayed Jerry West as an out-of-control, intoxicated rageaholic, saying that bears no resemblance to the real man. And they asked for a retraction no later than 2 weeks from the receipt of the letter. Of course, the letter got out in public to pressure the people over at HBO. The story continues here. The lawsuit continues, saying the portrayal of an NBA icon and LA Lakers legend Jerry West is, in winning time, is fiction pretending to be fact. A deliberately false characterization that has caused great distress to Jerry and his family. That, according to a lawyer named Skip Miller, the attorney for Jerry West. Now, West, the lawsuit goes on to say, was an integral part of the Lakers' success, blah, 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 blah. They call it a travesty that HBO has knowingly demeaned him for shock value and the pursuit of ratings. And they say, as an act of common decency, HBO and the producers owe Jerry a public apology, so they should go into the town square there and kiss Jerry's tuchus. And they went on and on. So let us discuss the question: is Jerry West's lawsuit wise or foolish? So on this one, it's a mixed bag. You've got the public address system flimsy and gold star. And we will tie all of these things together. Now, on the surface, Jerry West's legal pursuit here does appear to be a pea-brain move. That was my first thought when I saw it. And I'll tell you why. All right, because Jerry is bringing a lot more attention to this show. HBO, say what you want. Some people love it. Some people swear by HBO. But for many people, it's niche programming. It's a luxury item for most. And with inflation, the price of food and gas and everything going up these days, there's certain extracurricular activities that you have to say bye-bye and get rid of. And so there was I would say, meager audience for this show. But now what Jerry has done, he's gone on the public address system, gone on the PA system, and announced on a publicity tour to provide a new, larger audience. A bigger amount of people will see this show now than would have. On curiosity alone, more people will now want to see what's Jerry spitting mad about. Now, as far as the show, producer Adam McKay appearing to go with the basics here, following the age-old storytelling trope of going back all the way to ancient Greece here. If you tell a story, and people learn from stories. People remember things from stories. They don't remember things from facts. You remember from stories. But you have to have a protagonist and an antagonist for it to be a good, juicy story. You must have opposing forces in any story. And the antagonist is, of course, the rival of the protagonist. And you've got good guys versus bad guys, cops versus robbers, heroes versus villains. And Jerry West gets tossed into the heathen role on this show. Now, part B, does Jerry West have a case? Everything will be put under the microscope. Jerry West got some high-powered lawyers here who, of course, say that he is due the retraction of an apology and damages. That's also in the lawsuit, damages from HBO and the show's producers. Now, we are not lawyers. We have no formal legal training, but we love to give legal advice out on the radio. So here's my take on this. You can sue almost anyone for almost anything. We've known that for a long time. The real question is not if you can sue. Jerry's done that. It's whether you have a winnable case. And while it is not a slam dunk loss, it is flimsy at best. And I'll tell you why. These cases are very difficult to win because Jerry West lawyers, they're saying that HBO, they put a disclaimer on the broadcast apparently. And so they're saying that covers them. HBO saying that covers them. The lawyers for Jerry West say that does not insulate the network from liability. Of course they're going to say that. What would you expect them to say? They are alleging the people for Jerry West that the creators acted with legal malice. And that ultimately is what this comes down to. You can scream and shout and pound the table and all that, but they're claiming that many of the scenes in the series showing Jerry West's supposed rage did not actually appear in Jeff Pearlman's book and did not actually happen. So that part is black and white. It's either in the book or it's not in the book. So that you can prove, but that doesn't in and of itself prove legal malice. Now, in addition, there was a letter here that included statements, prepared statements from the NBA's all-time leading scorer, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Cooper, the father of Justin Cooper, Jamal Wilkes, among others, as well as there's some Laker employees here that used to work back in the old days there when Jerry West was with the team in that period. And all of them deny that they ever saw him, Jerry West, commit any rage-filled acts, drink alcohol in the office as claimed in the series. So is all of that, getting Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Cooper, Jamal Wilkes, is that enough, and others, to sway the scales of justice? In order to show actual malice, Jerry West lawyers have to demonstrate that the defendant here, HBO, either knew what they were doing was false, right? That they were just making this up and it was all bullcrap. They have to prove that, or subjectively entertain serious doubt it was truthful. HBO will come back. I guarantee you they're going to claim with their lawyers that they spoke to people around those Laker teams and they gave a different version of events, and there's two sides to Jerry West and all that, and they did their due diligence. And so ultimately, like most of these things, there's two different versions here. So there's really three things going on. You've got Jerry West's side of things, you've got HBO's side of things, and then the truth, which is somewhere in the middle. All right, now the last word here. Is it true? Is it true that Jerry West is a knucklehead, a raging lunatic, as apparently has been described in this HBO show? So I can only go off my experience. That has not been my experience. I've been around Jerry a little bit over the years, a long time in the LA sports scene. And Jerry West, in my book, Jerry's always gotten a gold star next to his name. And I've told this story before, but let's go in the Wayback Machine. One of my radio buddies, Joe McDonnell, better known as the Big Nasty, a staple of Los Angeles radio, the dean of LA sports radio. Joe had an afternoon drive show, worked at every station in town, was the Mike Francesa, if you will, of LA sports radio. And Joe had some health problems. He passed away a number of years ago. And I went to the funeral, and Jerry West showed up to give his condolences. And normally you don't bother to go to a radio guy's funeral, but he was there. Also, a former Orioles star, the Hall of Fame talent Eddie Murray was there. But Jerry West in particular. I mean, that really, to me, that moved the needle. I gave him a gold star. Now, none of us, not you or I, were around behind the scenes during the 1980s cocaine-fueled Laker years there. So it's all hearsay. But from what I have heard about Jerry West, the thing about that era of the NBA, there are a number of people that are, how shall I say it, hanging out with the green monster here, if you know what I'm saying here. That Jerry West, his success rubbed people the wrong way. They were green with envy, and they were jealous because Jerry got all of the credit, a lot of publicity. He had the Midas touch. He's the genius behind everything. And there were a bunch of other people that worked in that era for that team, and there were other people that were jealous, and they're like, wait a minute. And so I'm not doubting that some of them, likely with an axe to grind, said some things to HBO, and then you combine that with them needing to have someone who's the bad guy in the story. And so we have all those things meeting, and we'll find out what happens in court. But you've got Jerry West's side, you've got the HBO side, and then you've got the truth, which will be somewhere else in all this.